Hey, welcome back to 65 Drums. My name is Justin. Today I want to do a video about the very best electronic drum sets for about $1,000. Okay, so here are the four main contenders. We have the Roland TD07KV, the Alesis Crimson II SE, the Simmons SD1200, and the Yamaha DTX6K-X. All of these drum sets are relatively new. Let's start off with the Rollon Kit. The TD07KV, not to be confused with the Roland TD7, which came out in the 90s, comes with an 8-inch dual zone snare. The three tom pads are 6 inches across and are single zone. The kick drum is 8.5 inches across, but the playing zone itself is a little bit smaller than that. You get a 10-inch hi-hat and then two 12-inch dual zone cymbals for the crash and the ride. Here's the stuff it does right. It has the best kick drum on the list in my opinion. It has a nice solid feel to it, and it can work with double kick drum pedals and gives you the best overall experience if you're like a metal drummer, that sort of situation. It also has solid trigger accuracy, which is something that you would expect from a Roland drum set. Although I will say that some of the crosstalk settings are a little bit aggressive on the surface, so you might want to fine tune that. But the module has all those trigger controls inside of its settings. The module also has some pretty impressive sound editing tools that I didn't think they'd include on the TD07, although not quite as nice as the TD17KL, which this drum set is replacing. The built-in sounds are also pretty nice sounding. I like quite a few of the kits that they have built into the module. And of course, because this is a Roland drum set, it will have higher resale value if you ever want to upgrade from this and you want to sell it on Facebook Marketplace later on down the line. I also like the fact that it has audio out over USB or MIDI out over USB. You just need to switch the driver settings inside of the settings. No interface is needed with this drum module. Now, as far as weaknesses go, this is a very compact, very small drum set. Unfortunately, Roland decided not to improve the sizes of any of the drums when they came out with this kit. The only real upgrade over the TD17KL is the fact that it has mesh tom pads instead of rubber tom pads. Another weakness of this drum set, in my opinion, is the fact that it has no bell zone. A bell zone is a really important part of a drum set, and Roland has continued to not include a bell zone on any of their $1,000 drum sets for years now. And finally, the other weakness is that it only has an 1/8-inch headphone jack and doesn't have master right and left outputs. If you want to have master right and left outputs, you'll have to buy a small mixer and connect it to the 1/8-inch headphone jack. Overall, not a bad drum set. I enjoyed playing on it. Moving ahead to the Alesis Crimson II, you get a 12-inch snare that comes on a snare stand. For the toms, you get 8, 8, and 10-inch tom pads that are dual zone. The kick drum is 8 inches across and is made of mesh. The cymbals are 12 inches for the hi-hat. You get two crashes, which are also 12 inches across with choke. And then finally, you get a 14-inch 3-zone ride cymbal. Here are the strengths and weaknesses of this particular drum set. It's the biggest drum set for $1,000 that you can buy. Sometimes larger kits will go on sale and you can buy those which are larger than this one, but if all the drum sets are selling at their regular price, this is pretty much the biggest one you can buy for $1,000. The fact that you get two crash cymbals is really nice, and no other drum set on the list has that feature. It also is the best looking kit on the list in my opinion. I also love the mesh heads that come on this drum set. I believe they're the same ones that come on the new Strike Pro SE Edition drum set that just came out, and they just feel good. They're pretty dense, they're not as bouncy as some other mesh heads, and I like the look of them. I'd say the biggest weakness of the drum set is the internal sounds of the drum module. It's just not up to par with the competition. In the videos, the drums do sound okay, but in person, I found the module disappointing. So basically, the drum set is great for drummers who want to have the largest drum sizes and get two crash cymbals, and it's also great for people that use drum plugins because they don't rely on the built-in sounds of the module. But this drum set is not for the person that needs great sounds built in. And metal drummers that use double kick drum pedals might consider other drum sets that have superior kick drum pads. And as a side note, if you're shopping online, you'll probably notice there are 3 versions of this drum set: the Crimson 1, the Crimson II, and the Crimson II SE. They're all very similar. If you don't want to buy the Crimson II SE, you can buy one of those older 2 versions for about $800. Next up is the Simmons SD1200. The drum set has a 12-inch snare that comes on a snare stand just like Alesis. It gives you 2 8-inch tom pads and 1 10-inch floor tom. The kick drum is about 6 inches across and is a mesh foam hybrid, similar to Rollon but not as well built. As far as cymbals, you get 2 12-inch cymbals, one for the crash and one for the hi-hat, and then you get a 14-inch 3-zone ride cymbal. Here are the strengths and weaknesses of this particular drum set. I love the fact that the drum set has a color screen on it. It's the only one around this price range that has that. I also like the fact that it has faders so you can quickly adjust the volume. This is also the second largest kit that you can buy for $1,000. All of the drum and cymbal sizes are pretty much the same as Alesis, but it doesn't give you that second crash. And I think that the snare and tom pads were really well built. Now, as far as downsides, this drum set has hot spotting on the ride cymbal. Unless you play in a certain part of the ride, you're going to get a very, very weak signal. The kick drum isn't great. It kind of spins around as you're playing on it, that center foam mesh pad. And as far as the sound quality of the drum module, they're definitely better than Alesis, but they're still nowhere near on par with the Roland or Yamaha drum modules. As a quick side note, the expanded edition does go on sale at times for about the price of this drum set, so depending on when you're buying, you could buy the version that gives you the extra crash cymbal and the extra floor tom for the same price as this one. And then moving ahead to the next drum set, this is the smallest one on the list. This is the Yamaha DTX6K-X. The snare is about 8 inches across and is made of a DTX silicone material that is exclusive to Yamaha. It's a 3-zone pad. The tom pads are single zone and they're 7.5 inches across, and they're made of just regular standard rubber from the 90s. Moving ahead to the cymbals, you get 2 10-inch cymbals for the hi-hat and crash, and then you get a 13-inch 3-zone ride cymbal. So here are the pros and cons of this drum set. It has the very best drum module at this price range. It's no contest. I can't really get into the details here because I would double the length of this video, but the module is excellent. While the drum set is about the size of Roland's drum set, it does at least have a larger ride cymbal with a bell zone. It's got solid build quality, and it also has mesh compatibility because of the new module. So if you wanted to, you could outfit this with mesh pads later on down the line. The only major downside of going with this drum set is the rubber tom pads. Currently, Yamaha is the only manufacturer in the world making drum sets at this price range with non-premium tom pads. They also downgraded the hi-hat and crash pads on this drum set to the ones coming from the DTX402 series. But aside from all that, the main strength of this drum set has got to be the drum module. The DTX Pro is best in class. I personally think it's significantly better than everything from Simmons and Alesis around this price, and it does have the edge on Rollon too, especially because Rollon downgraded the TD17 module to the TD07 at this price point. The module has great internal sounds, solid editing options, an easy-to-use interface, dedicated inputs, mesh pad compatibility, ambience controls, and compression controls. So who is this drum set for? I would say this drum set is best for drummers that prioritize getting the best drum module when shopping for a drum set, and is not right for drummers that prioritize getting larger pads and having nicer tom pads. You can basically split these drum sets in this price range into 2 very separate categories. In the first camp, we have the Japanese companies. Roland and Yamaha, what they really excel at is giving you the best drum modules in class. They also tend to have slightly better build quality, and trigger accuracy is awesome. The only downside to these companies at this price range is they give you very small drum sets for the money. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have the drum sets from companies like Alesis, from Simmons, Gear for Music, Millennium, and other companies that focus on giving you a much larger drum set for the same price, but they don't put very much attention at all into making the drum module as good as it can be. So you sort of have an imbalance between these. There is no like all-in-one drum set that is great at everything. Otherwise, it would cost more than $1,000. So you have to figure out which one better aligns with what you want your drum set to do. I get emails from people that say, Justin, I just want a really large electronic drum set. In that case, I would take a look at the Alesis Crimson II SE. I think it's the better drum set if you want to get a large electronic drum set and that's your main focus. This is especially good for people like me that use drum plugins. They don't rely on the built-in sounds anyway. Meanwhile, if you're in the other camp, you want slightly better build quality, you want a better drum sound already built into the drum set already, I would take a look at the Yamaha drum set. The Roland drum set has better tom pads and a better kick drum, but I'd take the Yamaha one between those two just because it has a bell zone. It's got a 3-zone 13-inch ride cymbal, and the Roland one has a 2-zone 12-inch ride cymbal, and for me that's more important, so I decided that I would rather go with the Yamaha one. Now of course, these are just my personal picks. Go decide which drum set might be right for you, and of course check out the used market, definitely, but that's what I would personally go with if I was buying a new $1,000 drum set today. Have an amazing day, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all in a few.